Hi, so today I'm going to be talking about how AI generated images are like frozen pizza. Hi, my name is Escobar. I'm a storyboard artist on the Simpsons television show. I've been working on the show for over 25 years now, and I'm here to empower you. So, how is AI generated art like frozen pizza? This is a very inadequate analogy. There is no real way to compare what AI generated images do because the technology is so revolutionary that it changes everything. Uh, it's actually not quite like at first I thought it was like frozen pizza, then I thought it was like cup of noodles, and then I thought, no, it's like Star Trek Next Generation replicator, like food replicator, right? Like you just tell the replicator what you want to eat, and then it just comes out, sort of. It's a little bit more like that, where it just comes out of the box and then you take it out. But the problem with it is that you'll never get the same meal twice because the ingredients are different and it'll taste different every time, and you won't get a consistent meal. So like if you like the specific thing, like say you asked the replicator to give you a hamburger and then it came out, it would taste different every time. And sometimes you may like the burger and sometimes you won't, and you can't get a consistent burger. That's what uh, more like what AI generated images is like. So let me kind of talk a little bit about a few things. First of all, I'm going to be very quickly talking about the ethics of the AI generating art and the way that it was constructed. It was extremely unethical. If you want to know what the ethics of why it's kind of screwed up the way that the technology was created, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna link in the description of this video to a very interesting video about with a lawyer that talks about uh, just the legalities of the whole thing about the AI stuff and the way that it was kind of constructed and put together, and how messed up it is that it was created by basically taking a bunch of copyrighted images without permission, and that's how it was trained. And the most compelling argument that I know that shows that the people who did this knew it was unethical and wrong is that they're doing the exact same thing with the music industry, and they're going out of their way to say that they're not using copyrighted material. So that's great for the musicians, right? But the exact same people are going out of their way to say, look, we didn't use copyrighted material, but they didn't give the visual artist the same respect, right? They did. It's screwed up, right? Like they're like, please don't sue us. Well, why didn't you think? Yeah, it's not that they learned their lesson. They could. It's just that they didn't respect visual art. And a lot of and part of it, a lot of this is kind of general disrespect for visual art. And part of the disrespect for visual art comes from really the postmodern notion of what visual art is, and how screwed up the definitions of what art is, right? Like that's part of the problem, and I'll talk about that in a second. And the second thing I'm going to link to is a video by from Sam Does Art channel. It's a link to a video that he recorded about AI art, and he says he kind of gives his experience of of the bullying that he's getting because a group of people, many people have trained models for AI images off of his work, and um, and so there's a lot of images now that look like he did it, and but he didn't, and that's really messed up because and then he asks people not to do that, because it confuses people into thinking that something that because if you're not trained enough to see the difference between what he does and what the AI generated image creates, it, it confuses people into thinking that it's so as far as he's concerned, that's identity theft. And then when he asks people to stop, they mock him and bully him and do more. And that makes me sick. Like that really made me sick to my stomach. That's not cool. So stuff like that, like that's the kind of thing that's going on. That's kind of messed up. So those are some things that I want to link to so that you can get a little bit of a broader idea of, say, the negative part of this technology, where there is abuse and there is and it's extremely problematic in a lot of different ways. Now, going back to the original theme of how AI generated imagery is like frozen pizza, or more like a replicator food. Well, let me take the frozen pizza analogy, or even the cup of noodles. So one of the things, I just recently recorded a video where I just photo bashed an image to kind of look sort of like in the same vein or inspiration of something like Frank Frazetta doing a Conan thing. And I went through the whole process of just kind of photo bashing from a bunch of different assets. And one of the things that I kept on complaining about in the video was that it wasn't doing the job for me. That's actually the exact mindset of that the AI puts you under. It's supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be microwavable hot pockets. It's an easy meal with little effort. That's the entire point of the AI generated imagery. I fell into that thought process. That's the entire that video is an encapsulation of exactly what I mean by AI imagery, generated imagery, is being like frozen pizza. So, for example, you buy a prepackaged frozen pizza, and it's just cheese. You bought it a few days ago when you wanted cheese, but then when you were actually going to warm it up, you don't want just cheese anymore. So you happen to have other ingredients, and then you cut up vegetables, and you cut up some pepperoni, and then you put it on the pizza, and then you put it in the oven, and then it's cooked. Did you cook? Well, sort of. I mean, you put the effort of cutting the mushrooms and the green peppers, and then the pepperoni, and then you put it on the frozen pizza, which you didn't do anything else besides just buy the prepackaged meal. So you put little effort into it, and then it tastes good, but it's little effort. Same way, like if you were to get a cup of noodles and put it in the microwave, or just just heat up some water and then pour the thing in, but then you're like, well, I also want it to taste a little better, so you also boil an egg and you put it in there, and you cut up some green onions, and then you put it on there, and like to just spice up the cup of noodles. It tastes fine, it tastes good, but very little effort, right? I mean, that's you go to the store, you buy a hot pocket, you put it in the microwave, or a microwave burrito, you put it in the microwave. 5-year-old can do that, right? Are you a cook? Did you cook? You warmed up your food and then you ate it. So AI is like that. It's a prepackaged meal, but it's imperfect. But it's, like I said, it's not a perfect analogy because at least when you're buying a frozen burrito, it's going to taste the same when you buy the same brand over and over. You're not rolling the dice that it's going to taste different every single time you warm it up, or it's going to look different every single time you open the package. It's a little bit more like if you were buying like trading cards, and then like every single time you open the frozen burrito package, it was a different type of burrito. You didn't know what kind of burrito you were going to get, and you may like it or you may not like it. So like I said, it's an imperfect analogy, but the idea is that it's low effort imagery. That's the point. And it's an imperfect low effort imagery. So one of the things that I was complaining about in the video when I was doing the photo bashing is that it couldn't do what I did. I said, this thing doesn't do what I want it to do. It doesn't do what I can do. That's the point. That's a good thing, right? Even when you train the model to try to draw like you, it doesn't quite do it. So and it can't make the decisions you would make. And I think that's the point. It may look like something you did, but it's not what you would do. It may superficially look like something you did. I think that's what it is. But it wouldn't actually be the thing that you do, because you'd make actual decisions based on you rather than just superficial physical decisions based on what the AI just randomly generates. And the whole random generation thing is fun as a game, which is why things like Minecraft are fun, and why things like roguelikes are fun, because they have random generation of levels and things like that, right? That add chaos, but the reality is that when you are actually drawing and creating an actual piece, you're actually making deliberate decisions for very specific reasons, and the AI can't do that. And even if it makes decisions on its own, it's not you that is doing it. So it's very, very weird. Like, it's a very weird thing. And if you really, 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 really want to understand what this means, because part of the thing about the image making for people who aren't artists, who can't draw, is that they assume that this is what it feels like to be able to draw. Like, they're like, oh, this is what it's like. This is what it's like to be able to make a drawing. And it's like, no. In spite of the fact that I'm always complaining about wanting to do less work and being lazy, when you're actually doing something that you want to be doing, when you're actually drawing a thing that you really have passion about, it's not work, and you don't want to be lazy about it. You're actually so into it that it's the making of the thing that makes it fun. So the actual putting and the physicality of doing the thing is what makes it fun. And so that's missing in generating an image through prompting. That's not there. That part of it isn't there. Again, it's like the difference between cooking a meal for someone by grabbing all the ingredients yourself and then making that meal from scratch, or grabbing a pre-made meal from the freezer section and putting it in the microwave, right? It tastes fine, but there's a difference between making and going through the process of making the meal for a loved one and or just warming it up for your loved one. Yeah, they get to eat, but there's a difference in the execution. And then if you love to cook, part of the fun, part of the love is in the execution and in the process of making the food. So that's the difference between that and just prompting, right? And I know because I'm an artist and I do the thing and I've experienced both, and it's not the same. Even when I was photo bashing the thing, it was completely. It wasn't as satisfying, anywhere near as satisfying as having done it yourself through the whole process. So that's another thing about, don't fool yourself into thinking that that's what it is to actually do the thing. And then if you want to understand this more, and if you really want to understand what it means and what the differences are between something generated by a computer and having done the thing, there's an AI called ChatGPT. And ChatGPT can do a lot of things that you as a person would do or can do, but it can also do it, right? So you could experience what it's like to have an AI do something that you know how to do, like draw or write or whatever it is, and then have the AI do it for you. And what happens is, say, if you go to ChatGPT and you sign up, and then you say, write me a story, or write me a contract, or just ask it to write a general email of some sort, like a thank you note or something like that, right? Like, have ChatGPT actually do something that you know that you're good at doing, and have it do it for you, and then compare that the outcome of ChatGPT's thing to what you do, and then you'd understand what it means. Because what would happen is, like, it would be competent enough so that it would be the base level, it's base level competent, right? Like it's where it's good enough, but if you'd done it with the skill sets that you're good at, you'd do a better job. And so you'd be able to look at that, and then you could fix it. You could fix that. You could, ChatGPT writes code, right? So you could, if you write code, then you could ask ChatGPT to write code for you, and then you can check the code, and then you could see how you'd do it better or how it did it better, and then you can adjust the code based on how you do it as opposed to how it did it. And the same thing with writing a story, and the same thing with writing an email, writing a contract. You'd see how it did it, and you'd still have to fix it or adjust it based on your understanding of things and the way that you do it as a human being, right? That's what it's like to have a computer do an image, and then you go, but I do this. When you're an artist, when you actually know how to do it. Part of the other problem with AI generated images is that it assumes you were born with talent. And that's another, I've seen this so much when trying to sell the idea of AI generated imagery. If you weren't born with talent, now you have this easy outcome. That's not how it works. That's exactly the wrong mindset. And I fight this mindset all the time. with people. And I try to educate. It's not, we weren't born with it. We worked at it. We didn't stop working at it. That's the difference. The difference is you quit and you didn't build the skill because it's time consuming, as opposed to, oh, if you weren't born with it, it doesn't come easy. You have to work at it, right? Like it takes time and effort. And you have to love doing it. So really, it's like if you were too lazy to learn to draw, now you can create imagery really quick. And again, it's not satisfying. It's about as satisfying as microwaving a burrito. And people are like, wow, look at me, I could microwave a burrito. Wow, I'm so awesome. And then it's like, look at the microwave burrito I made. I am a cook. Right? That's and then they put it up online saying that they've generated this thing. That's and really what the effort comes from theing the machine to do what you want it to do, but it's still really, really, really impractical. Like there's some things that it does very well, and then there's some things that it can't do at all. And the thing that it definitely, absolutely 100% cannot do at all is everything that I can do. It does everything that it can do, but it's not what I can do. And so here's another thing about AI generated imagery, and especially I want to talk to artists here. The artists that are the most afraid of AI generated imagery are digital artists. Artists that only do digital work and they cannot do traditional. So this is one of those things where and some actually and let me backtrack a little bit. And there are some traditional artists who are afraid of this because of the type of artwork that they do. If they do abstract, bizarro, weird art that is super rendered and it's just abstract and weird, AI, it's the king of doing that. Like it just does weird crap which is really highly rendered. So you're out of a job if all you do is weird, crazy, weird crap that's highly rendered, because AI can do that with its eyes closed. Like it doesn't. It's just absolutely. You're gone. Like it doesn't do. Like so. But otherwise, but even then, if you're doing physical versions of that, if you're doing traditional versions of that, I don't understand what the fear is, because the traditional artist produces a piece of work in real space and time that can be physically handled, and it's unique and it exists in reality, right? A digital image does not exist in reality. It exists in the screen alone. And then when you print it, it's just manufactured. It's a manufactured image. Manufactured physical image through a manufactured process. So it's just manufactured imagery through manufactured, and even when it's physical, it's still manufactured. And that's kind of the problem with digital art. That as much as I work on it in digital art, and I love the outcome of digital art, physical traditional art is still something that I absolutely love and adore doing, and it's unique and special. And the fact that now a computer can create a digital piece of imagery really does devalue digital imagery, digital art by human hands to a certain extent, because you can get the same outcome through AI, but you cannot do the same thing with traditional art. it could make it look like traditional art, but it's not, because it still only exists in a digitized fashion. And unless you print it out, even then, like you could print it out and you could add texture on it, and you can make it have shapes and make it look as if it was physically painted and stuff, but it wasn't. But it wasn't. So, yeah, you can sort of do it, but it never was. And it comes back to this book, and I did talk about this book. I reviewed this book. I'll link to it in the description. But remember, this is the difference between the postmodern idea of what art is and what the traditional way that art was understood. If you look at, say, iconography, Eastern Orthodox iconography, right, Byzantine iconography, all of it is kind of a copy of a copy of a copy. Like there's a say the icon of the Pantocrator, right? You commission an artist in the Byzantine style to create an icon of the Pantocrator, and you could take a photograph and just put it on the wall, or a print and put it on the wall of already existing Pantocrator. But it has less impact, less value than if you hire an iconographer to paint you a physical version of it. And I say version because it's meant to be. It's a very interesting thing. It's supposed to look just like the Pantocrator, and then within the tradition of the Pantocrator, they all kind of look the same. They're all derivative of each other. But it's the fact that it was made by human hands, physically, on the material it was made. So it has to be made on wood or stone or a natural substance like that. And then it has to be painted with organic paints, like tempera paints, and if possible, and if impossible, you can use acrylic. But ideally, you want tempera. You could carve it out of stone, but it has to be a physical thing. It has to be made out of natural things, and it has to be done physically by a human being, and it has to look like this, and it has to have these particular things in it that are symbolic of the thing. So it has to be red here, and it has to be blue here, and Jesus has to be holding his fingers like this, and then there has to be gold and all that. There's specific things that have to be put into the icon, because the image represents something. It's symbolic of something. The colors are symbolic of something. The look of the thing is like the way it looks because of a specific reason. And it has to be physical, and it has to be done on these particular materials. A computer could never do that. And all of this stuff, all of that process of making that icon, is all because of the elevated philosophical reasoning behind the product. It's supposed to be a higher thing. It's supposed to lift. That's art. So it's again, like this is Plato. Whatever is made only to give pleasure is, as Plato put it, a toy for the delectation of the parts of us that passively submit to emotional storms. In other words, it's just heathenism. It's just emotional pornography. Creating imagery that makes you feel good for the feeling and the emotion. But as an artist, you're supposed to go beyond that. It's supposed to elevate you to a higher understanding. So it's the equivalent of, say, an AI writing a book, a story, and J.R. Tolkien writing Lord of the Rings, or Dostoevsky writing The Brothers Karamazov. That's the difference. What you'll get from AI is a generic, synthetic story that may actually be structurally sound, but it lacks any real humanity and understanding of what makes human beings human. Read The Brothers Karamazov, and it talks about that's what it's about. If you read Lord of the Rings, that's what it's about. And what you get from AI is just the imitation of that. Whereas the education to be derived from works of art, Plato says, should be an education in the love of what is ordered and the dislike of what this is disordered. There's a little bit more to this than is kind of being talked about. And a lot of the conversations, let's say that all the legal stuff gets worked out. That ultimately is going to be the thing about AI generated art. I've played around with it enough, and that's what it is right now. For me, it's a game. As an artist, when you're actually able to do the thing, AI generated imagery is a fun tool, and it's a thing to play with. It's a toy. And it's a toy that is useful and fun in the same way that this is useful, and things like that. Like you use it for things, and it may help you speed up stuff, but it's not it. It's not it. It's not the thing. It's not going to do what you can do. So for people who cannot do what I can do, I've noticed that I've actually watched a video of a person who went through their entire process of how to generate something, right? So he took a prompt from like Inktober, and then he was going to go, I'm gonna, and he's not going to make an ink drawing, because one of the things that the AI is really bad at is doing ink drawings. He did the prompt, and it didn't look like ink drawing at the end, but I was able to see how somebody who has no way to fix what the AI does, right? And so I saw him go through the whole entire process, and one of the things that he kept on saying is like, oh, well, look, this hand's messed up. I can't use that image. Oh, this hand's messed up. I can't use that image because fixing those hands and that arm was extremely difficult to do. And I'm like, no, it isn't. Like, no, you just fix it. Like, fix it. Like, if you don't like it, fix it. Like I could fix it. So somebody who can't fix it is at the whims of the machine not giving you what you want, and having to have to discard this image because this is messed up. It's like, I'm like, friggin' fix it, man. Like, whatever. Like, so if you want something specific, you're not going to get specific. You're only going to get what it gives you. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, it gives me perfectly what I was thinking of doing. It's like, no, not really. It gave you what it gave you, and then you project that you do it like that. That's really what it is. That's like amateur thinking. That's what people think drawing is. When you actually do it, it's very, very different. Which is why you put in the work, so that you have control and are able to do it yourself. And again, I highly recommend going to ChatGPT and having it do something that you are competent at, that you are really good at. Have it do that. And then you tell me that it's exactly the same. And it's not. So there's a different experience that a person who can draw has when playing this with this toy, and what someone who can't draw thinks is what it's like to produce images and to produce art. Um, and it brings me to my final point. This kind of puts the lie to the postmodern idea that somehow just doing, and I've said this in a previous video, farting, expressing yourself is art. Like if you fart because it's feelings, because you have ideas and you feel, it's it, and you want to express yourself. Well, that's not really art. Even though I've said that it needs to be a human thing with it's not about feelings. It's more about truth. So you can feel something is true, but it's not. It's just feelings. Just because you have an opinion doesn't mean it's true. So part of the problem with art, and it's part of the problem with relativism, and it's part of the problem with heathenism, and it's part of the problem with emotivism, is that that the lie of the postmodern theory of art is that it's just about expressing yourself. So this is just another form of expressing myself, is by writing prompts, and then it just expresses what I feel, and it reflects my feelings. And again, that's just heathenism. That's just a toy. Like, again, it goes back to what Plato says. It's just a toy for the delectation of the parts of us that passively submit to emotional storms. It's like in the Divine Comedy. If you read the Divine Comedy, the first level of hell before they goes into limbo, I believe, it's the people chasing the flag around with the bees. And it's just like you're just being flown around by the wind chasing the flag, but you'll never catch it, and it's just emotion, and there's nothing to stand on, and you're just getting cut and cut and cut because you're dying of 1,000 cuts, because emotions are just not solid. It's a storm. It's a storm. That's what Plato calls it, and that's exactly what it's like. You just one time you're feeling this and you're feeling that and you're feeling this. It's like there's no solidity, right? So that's part of the problem. So the entire point is that Plato was saying in the traditional way of thinking about art is that it's putting forth an absolute objective truth that isn't relative, right? That is saying something that is objectively true about reality. And you can only do that if you're actually a human being, specifically talking from a very specific worldview in space and time, when you're actually producing the thing that is meant to say a thing that is absolutely objectively true. And having a random generator roll the dice and have something say something objectively true is, what the heck? So it puts a lie to the everything is art because I fart, right? Like it's the fart because I need to pass gas to feel better, so I pass gas and therefore that's art, right? Like the imagery you produce is that release, and that's always the problem. Because an image is meant to mean something, and it's not just. I was watching another video where the person's like, "I'm going to have to ask why, even if the execution of the art is terrible, as long as the person has a why, for the image that they produced, that's what's really." And it's like, no, it's because the craft part is part of the art. The The execution of the art has to have craft. It has to have high quality craft. It can't be just a bunch of garbage. Part of the thing is the why. Yeah, let's do the why. Let's do the icon, right? Like I'm gonna do the icon, but if you do an awful job, like if you do a stick figure version of the icon, the craft is not there. Like it doesn't work. Like that's not the icon isn't a stick figure. You can put all the stuff in the right place and all the colors in the right place, but if it's all a big stick figure done, and it's not gonna. I mean, you could do a lousy one and it could still have some merit because you did it physically and with the skill you have. Okay, but you shouldn't stop there. You should build your craft so that it becomes more and more and more beautiful, and the entire point of it is to build the craft. It has to be well made, and it has to say something objectively true, and whatever you put in there it has to be. That's really what it is. So like there's more to this than and it's funny to watch and hear postmodern artists who don't understand this try to see what the difference between what they do is and what an image generator does, because there is no difference. If you have a postmodern mindset about what art is, then what the AI does and what that postmodern artist does, there is no difference. Zero difference. The postmodern artist who does everything just out of feelings and is doing things just as randomly as an AI generated image maker, because you're just coming out it's just random. But if you're doing an image because you're actually saying something objectively true that exists in reality in order to educate and elevate humanity, an AI can't generate that. Even no matter how much you want to prompt it to do it, the image it produces is still just a roll of the dice. So at the end of the day, that's really the difference between. That's kind of like the philosophical dilemma that a lot of postmodern artists are having right now, is that there really isn't a difference between what an AI generator image maker does and what they do, because they're coming from basically nothing. They're just inventing philosophies, thinking that they're saying something when they're not saying anything. And neither is AI generated art. It's just random noise. So when you don't have a good worldview that actually talks about reality as it is, and you're just feeling and expressing your feelings, you are no different. You're saying nothing. You're just producing noise. Pretty noise, but noise nonetheless. And that's what AI generated art is. Pretty noise. So at the end of the day, I recommend learning, like for artists that are really concerned about AI generated art. One, especially if you're a digital artist only, learn to draw traditionally, for crying out loud. What's wrong with you? Come on, reality exists. Pick up a piece of paper, learn to paint acrylic, learn to paint oil, learn to paint with watercolors, get some colored pencils and Prismacolor pencils. Just do anything that's physical, okay? So because that's the number one thing that AI will never be able to do, even if it was to even if you were to program a robot arm to make it's just a fancy printer. That's all it will be. And a printer can do that. So do that. And also learn what reality is and then reflect it in the images you make. And those are the two things that AI would never be able to do. And and as a side note, the AI thing, the whole I'll link to this final video here with Stan Prokopenko talking to somebody who is on the side of making these AIs, and the philosophy and behind the whole invention of the AI to begin with. The idea being that AI was invented in order to create utopia. It it sounds like dystopia, like everything that the person was saying about the creation of why AI is being created is completely and totally dystopian. Like it was just like, what are you talking about? We're creating these things so that man doesn't have to work, and that there is no conflict, and that we don't have to. And I'm like, what? Like, what? Like, the entire thing that makes drawing pleasurable is the struggle. It's the work. Now, as much as I'm always saying, I'm so lazy, I just want to do the thing, and blah, 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 blah. It's actually the opposite. I say that like in a bit of a joke. Like, so one of the reasons why I say I'm so lazy, I don't want to do this thing, is because I want to do more work. That's the irony of me trying to say that I'm being lazy, is that I want to be able to produce more. I want to struggle more by doing more struggling. So I'm being lazy so I could speed up the process, so I could do more work, be in it more. There's an irony there where, like, we want to take away all. We want AI to do everything for us. So then what are we? What? Even in the notions of the second coming, even in Roman Catholic ideas of what it's going to be after the second coming, where in Christian Orthodox Catholic thinking and in Eastern Orthodox Catholic thinking, the ultimate end is not being in heaven as a ghost or whatever the blazes. It's being in front of, being with Christ physically in a human body, glorified human physical body in paradise. That's the end goal of a Christian life, is to be in a physical body. It's like elves in Lord of the Rings. Right? Immortal, but glorified, but better than the elves in Lord of the Rings, because elves in Lord of the Rings are still kind of, in a way, kind of a fallen race still. So that's the notion, that's the utopia of the Christian end time. But a lot of the time people think that it's just harps and doing nothing. But the idea here is that you are in the presence of the Creator, where you're constantly going to be shown something that you've never seen before. And then you're going to get to participate in the creation of it, in the understanding of it. It's always going to be something new. It's like Christmas right before you open your presents all the time. Like that sort of thing, where it's that anticipation of when you watch the trailer of the movie you really want to watch. It's like that. Like you're always there, like in that place where you're just, and then when you see it, you participate in it, and you work in it. It's like it. That's why, like, the idea that the angels are pushing the things and creating the things and doing it's like, again, Lord of the Rings, where in the Silmarillion, if you read the Silmarillion, you have like Iluvatar sending off the Valar to create the universe, right? Like that's the and they're doing the thing that was shown to them by Iluvatar, and then they went and out and did the thing, and that's kind of the idea, that you're constantly creating, you're constantly doing, that's, you're like, an AI doing everything for you is not utopia. And even in the second coming, in the new world, we'll still be participating in the creation of the thing. That's the idea. The idea that it's still, we're, that God isn't selfish. He wants us to participate and continues to, he wants to share creation. He wants to share the creation, and he wants to share the creativity, the doing of the thing. And so that's the mindset. That's the philosophy, right? So, and that's how messed up it is that that AI is created by a bunch of people that don't understand that the creation is part of the joy, is the co-creation, as J.R. Tolkien says. We are co-creators with our Creator. We participate in the creation of new things, and there is the spark of the divine, right? And to have somebody take that away, it's just to leave us in hell, to leave us separated from the creation, right? Like everything is done for us. It's so weird and dystopian. Anyway, enough of that. Those are my thoughts about AI. All right, so let me know what you think, and then we'll just keep talking about it. And it's an interesting topic, and I will talk to you later. All right, bye. So I'm happy to announce that I now have a new drawing lesson called Drafu Guide to Sketching and Gesture Foundations. It's the beginning of the level 2 information that people have been asking me for the drawing website, which will teach you where to start drawing, what to draw when you draw, how to draw from observation, how to draw from imagination, how to draw what you envision, and how to discover what you ought to envision if you don't have anything specific in mind. So if you find any of this interesting, you could follow the link that you see, or you can go to thedrawingwebsite.com, look under level 2, and you'll find a link there.